Yes, come on, shorty. Let's go. Girl, I see you over there in the corner of the dance floor, and I know
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
It's just
hey.
being the Joneses. Just being the Joneses.
Welcome back. Thanks for
Just
tuning
being the
in.
Joneses.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah. Thank y'all for joining us. And so today we are talking about
Healthy balance
with
with church family.
church and family. Yeah. Um, I think that's an important topic to talk about because sometimes I know it can be a little bit difficult to find balance there. And and we both have our own experiences, when as far as like when we was little
Yeah,
and
growing up.
I was in growing up in church and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And my dad my father has been a pastor my whole life, so I was raised in the church.
I know you was raised all up in the church.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I feel like, but now, like being an adult, looking back, I'm glad that I was raised in the church, like that my parents knew God and that they taught me the power of prayer. They taught me what faith is. And because of that, I do have a strong faith in God, right? And because of my own experience, like I was able to experience, I experienced God so many, in situations that I had to use that faith that I was taught, that faith, I had to use that in so many situations in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely thankful for, that experience. But it's some things that like once I had kids and as I grew older, that I did differently, or I preferred to do differently than my parents. Like they did how they wanted to do it when it came to the church and family. Right. But then I saw different, it's just different things that I wanted to do when it came to my kids and church and family.
Yeah, different way of doing it. New generation, so new ideas of, how we want to do it. Be in the church, but not totally committed to church and nothing else.
But yeah. So because God is everywhere. Like as far as like now with you went you went to church a lot when you was little, but you weren't
Not
per
a
se
lot.
like
No, not when I was little. When I was, I didn't really start going to church like that. My mama, it was one of the situations where your mama send you to church, say, "Hey, y'all go to church." She'll drop us off or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was like when I was in high school.
Well, that's
drop us out. Well, when I think of little, I'm thinking little.
No, I mean as a kid, as a child. Let's just say clarify, like as a child,
teenager. So teenage years, yeah, I was there like every Sunday. Me and my sisters, we was in church like every Sunday. And see, it was a little holiness church, and it was different. It was different in a way because the church was actually at a house. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I mean, people's laugh at me and just and see, but it was cool though. It was still a church. It was still a real good church up in there. You feel it.
And see, you did holiness. My church was also holiness, Pentecostal, apostolic, whatever. But but see, the difference is that I went, like my parents took us to church. Yeah. And so y'all was kind of like dropped off.
Well, took us and dropped off.
Yeah.
That's how I was here.
So with us coming together with two different, totally different dynamics of, like how we were raised in the church. Because with me, it was like every single Sunday I had to go to church. If I spent the night at somebody's house, like my sister, because my sisters are way older than me, their house or something, I had to be to church on Sunday, right? Our church was in Sunday. For some time they had church Sunday and Sunday night. And then on Wednesdays and Fridays, like it was a lot of church, Yeah. And then sometimes on Saturdays, we was preoccupied with things at the church. Yeah. So that is something that I wanted to kind of change when it came to my family, and stuff like that, because I wanted my kids to be able to, like, I don't want I want them to know that they have God with them. Just because they aren't there every time the church door is open does not mean God is not with them. Like, it doesn't make them any less saved than anybody else who's there every time the door is open, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want them to miss out on things, like, as you can put God first and still, I felt like I could still put God first and allow my kids to still be able to do things that they wanted to do, without everything having to revolve around church.
Yeah. So like we had to miss a Sunday, because we out of town or whatever, doing some family activities, family fun.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't feel bad about that. You and I, taking our kids out and, just having a good time.
Yeah. Cause you don't have to be at the church to pray. You don't have to be at the church to worship. You don't have to be at the church. The actual building is what I'm saying. Like, you are the church as the person. So it's like, you don't have to be in this place, in that particular building, for everything that has to do with God to exist, So that's one of the things that I like. Regardless of where you at, your faith should remain strong. God should be first, and God being first don't always look like I'm running to me. It doesn't always look like I'm running to the church every time the church door is open. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's what people want to do, but I see a lot of people kind of look down or shun or look at people differently when, especially Christians, when it's like, okay, I'm here all the time, but you're not here all the time.
Why aren't you?
Yeah. So therefore, like, they're looking at you like, okay, they're more saved or holier than you are because they're not there as much as you might be. But family is a ministry.
That's right.
Marriage is a ministry. So you can't allow I don't believe that God wants us to let these things go lacking just because of being at a building all the time, when he is in the midst of where he should be, in the midst of your ministry, wherever your ministry is. So,
and I'm gonna keep it real and say, some people who go to church all the time throughout the week like that ain't no better. You know what I'm saying? They think they're on a higher standard or whatever, on a higher pedestal, or more Christian, more saved than somebody who rarely go to church or don't go to church. But sometimes they'll be the ones who be doing the most sinning.
Sometimes.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm saying all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I mean, you had a situation, and then a lot of times the people who look down are the ones who are really just, I don't know.
Yeah. So like
sometimes they ain't got everything right. Sometimes they ain't doing everything.
Yeah, because
right.
None of us are perfect. None of us has it all right.
Right.
And going to a building every single time the door is open doesn't mean that we have it more right than the person who doesn't.
Don't, yeah.
Or it's about your relationship with God, how you invite God into your life and things like that. So there's different ways to put God first, other than, this church is the only way. If I'm not at church because my son, like a church event because my son got a game, or if my son graduating and I'm at church and not his graduation, or if, I won't take my kids on a weekend of a family trip because I got to be to the church Friday and Sunday, that doesn't mean that I'm not putting God first because the next person don't do those things because they are at the church all the time. So I can be putting God first in a lot of other ways than just being at the church every time. So like, and if I get up and if I'm on vacation and I get up and I pray with my children, or I'm praying, or, I'm conversing with God, or whatever the case may be, and even just spending that time with my family, creating that cohesiveness with my family, bonding, and how I'm operating in my family also, is how I'm putting God first. How does God want me to present, and me teaching my children God's word and all of these things like that doesn't mean that I can't also teach them at home too. I could take them to church, and I believe in that. The church, and it's good to go to church. It's good to assemble yourselves together with other Christians and stuff like that, and that's definitely important. But the whole point is, like, there's also, just because I'm not there every single time the door is open does not mean that, or I put different things, I'm doing different things for my family, so I can't be there, or doing different things for my marriage, so I can't be there, does not mean that I'm not putting God first.
That's right. Yeah. Remember when we used to, we were living in Crestview, when we used to go to New Life, sometimes we would, stay home and do church, watch Pastor Williams on online or whatever. And when we had for the kids, we had those sheets, the worksheets. So, hey, what I'm saying, fill out pay attention to the service, fill out the worksheets or whatever, answer the questions. And we go over that, we review that.
And truthfully, they got more out of that than when we did go to, like when we went to church, it was like asking them, well, what did y'all get out of the message?
Yeah, and it wasn't much. It wasn't really,
and it wasn't much that they obtained,
And there's a lot, the church language, when a preacher preaches, the church language can be kind of difficult.
Depending on because when we went to what's that other church where we was invited to go, so we started going there, and they gave out these pamphlets at the beginning of every service,
that was
and you go along with
right?
that was
was it the Mosaic?
Yeah, Mosaic.
The Mosaic church.
So they gave us these pamphlets when we got there, and so whatever the preacher was preaching, there was a message. The pamphlet aligned with that message, and there were spaces for you to write certain stuff, and the kids was really into that.
Right.
And so it was different for me because it was a different kind of atmosphere from what I was used to. But when I saw that my kids was getting, because I grew up in the church, I was raised in the church, I got the foundation, I heard the word preached time and time and over. So at that point I was like, okay, this atmosphere is a little different for me, but my kids is getting something out of it. Yeah. So I was like, I'm good with that, so yeah. And
that church had a really good coffee machine too. Cappuccino make. That's why I like going. But that was a good church. I mean, there was always something to get out of it. It was they were cool. They welcomed us with open arms, and I really like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a mixed, diverse church, and it was just God was there. We felt it.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and even now, like Cam have like his different books and stuff that we'll do and stuff like that. But that's one of the things that I can say that I don't have a lot of memories of when I was growing up of us doing family time outside of church. And I wanted to create a environment for my children where we put God first. And you learn faith, you learn the word, you know how to pray, all of this stuff like that. And your relationship with God is important. But we also create these memories. We have time, and we create a balance where we can still create these memories as a family, because like I said, family is a ministry. And we're creating, this time outside of just, the church environment too. So I don't have many of those memories. Right. Everything I remember mostly growing up is church. And I just remember that and remind myself that the church is a building where we come together and assemble ourselves together for worship. And for the word and stuff like that. But all of these things can be done anywhere that you are.
Anywhere.
So
I mean, we've been there. I have memories of us, the whole family being, riding down I-10 or wherever we were, and we start talking about the Bible, opening that conversation.
Opening conversation.
God, I mean, churches everywhere.
Because I don't know about other people, but I mean, I don't need to be at the church to shout, because I'll be shouting in my own house.
She do.
I would catch the Holy Ghost right up in.
Yes. You caught the Holy Ghost when I was praying. I was like, hey, I better record this. What have I said? So like, it's just. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, like, God is everywhere. That's a simple answer, because I remember a time when I was in Korea. I was at work in Korea, and this guy I know, he was in the military also, but he was in Japan. He called me with some stuff that was going on in his life that, I think it was marital issues, something like that. And he was like, man, can we pray? And I said, yeah, we right here. I was at work at the help desk. Stop what I was doing. Because that man needed prayer. God was right there with us.
Yes, God uses you outside of those four walls. Yes. He needs us to be used and allow ourselves to be used outside of those four walls.
And that's the example we always give our kids.
Like, how many walls y'all church got? But
and how tall they are.
But I mean,
and that's the example we always give our kids. And I shared that with them. That's not the first time I mentioned that. But and we always try to tell my kids, just, hey, wherever you may be, just be that example to somebody. They may need to talk to you or pray with you wherever, at school or at the park, wherever.
Yeah.
Because it's all good. Wherever you pray at, saying God is there holding you and watching you. And
yes. And he's there in the middle.
And loving that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And so like, we just really wanted to encourage like families out there. Some people may be struggling with this, and I think it's important to have that conversation within your family, with your mates and stuff like that. And because it could be really a struggle in some people's homes and within your families, and especially if you're being judged by people on the outside, at the church that you're a member of, or if you have family members that are Christians, that heavy church goers and stuff, sometimes you get that judgment from them or whatever. So, I personally have long time ago grown out of the worrying about what people think of me in that type of light or whatever. So in this situation, because I'm comfortable and I'm confident in my relationship with Christ and with God, and how and if I need more, or if something feel like it's lacking or whatever, I know I have a relationship with God. So, I feel that nudge or whatever in my heart. So therefore, like, I don't allow other people anymore to dictate those things for me. And so, I think that sometimes it's hard sometimes to get from up under the scrutiny of people when it comes to things like that. And you want to do something different, and you may be and sometimes God may be calling us to do some things outside of the environment other people want us to do it in. And sometimes you're, so caught up into what they think, because they're going about their will and what they want you to do. And they're not open-minded to the idea that God may be calling you in a different direction. Yeah. So sometimes you need to just be mindful of that, pray, and let God lead you. If God leads you to being committed to being at the church every time the church doors open, then that's the way God led you. If he don't lead you that way, then you have to get from up under the scrutiny of people, not being controlled by people, that
their judgment,
judge you like that.
Their feelings, because it's their feelings, really.
Their feelings, and what they want. What they want you to do, and what they see. And they may mean well.
Yeah, they may mean very well, but you do what you do for your family, for your family's sake. I mean,
let God guide you in all that you do.
Special events, graduations, whatever your kids got going on, do it. And I mean, God understands.
Because I know it was some kids that grew up in the church with me who said they wasn't allowed to participate. They couldn't participate in sports with schools and extracurricular activities because it was always something church going on, something with church going on, and that was their parents' way of putting God first. And if that's the way they knew it to be at that time, then that's how they knew it to be at that time. But as for me, and then some other people that see now that they see that, I can put God first, and I can also let my children participate in things. Yes. I can also do things with my family, yes, and also, put God first. So I don't have to, putting church over putting this over church doesn't mean putting God over this. Okay. I mean, putting this over God. Yeah. So you may be saying, okay, I'm putting this over going to church this Friday or this Sunday, but that doesn't mean you're putting that thing over God. That's right. So you have to learn that balance and how to do those things. Remember, church is the building.
Because God knows your heart.
God knows your heart.
God knows people need a break.
And so, and I've even seen like some somebody. It was a minister. I know he was a pastor. He is a big social media. He's on social media a lot. But I remember reading one of his posts, and he was saying that he was taking a break from the position he was in the ministry, because God was calling him to spend more time with his family, be more present when it came to his family and his friends and his kids and stuff like that. So, I mean, that was the direction. Some people may not agree with him. They might think that, oh, God didn't tell you to give a break to that position in church. You don't know that. So, who knows what else is going on in his life where God needed to strengthen a certain part, or whatever. And it could be beneficial for, his marriage or his family ministry, and which in turn, strengthens him in other ways and even in his relationship with God. So, I mean, just because it's traditional don't mean it's the only way.
That's right. And we're not talking down on anybody who do it the traditional way.
Yeah, because if everybody is
every Sunday or every time, Wednesday Bible study or Saturday, God's appreciation night, do it all. If you feel like that's what you need to do for your family.
Right.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Everybody should do what they feel like they need to do.
Exactly. But God can be constant. And for the people who are struggling with this, and God can be constant in your life without you having to, if something is going on in your life where you can't constantly be at the building all the time, God could still be constant in your life, so those are the things that we need to keep in mind, finding that healthy balance between church. And when I say church, I say church, not God, but church and the family. And, so, yeah.
That's right. That's real.
But that's what we got. Hopefully everybody got something, or somebody got something out of it. And, we ain't trying to offend. We just talking from our experience and point of view. Yeah, and if it don't apply, let it fly. So, exactly. I mean, let us know in the comments what your experience is as far as like growing up and being raised, like if you was raised in the church, if you wasn't, what do you see? Do you do things differently now with your family? Or, what does that look like for you? And what is helpful, for creating some type of balance between church and family and things like that could be helpful to somebody else. Let us know those things in the comments. And don't forget to
subscribe. You haven't done so.
Yeah. And hit that notification bell.
And share that thing. Share it. Go ahead.
And share, because somebody might need this, And if y'all have any questions, then feel free to hit us up in the comments, or you can hit us in our DM on Just Being the Joneses on Instagram. So we have an Instagram now, Just Being the Joneses. You can hit us in that DM with anything you would like to say, or if you don't want to leave it in the comments. Yeah.
Or any topics you want to talk about. Anything. Hit us up.
Mm-hmm. And it's Just Being the Joneses, y'all.
Being the Joneses. Y'all have a blessed day.